Thank you all for joining me today. Today we are at George Rogers Park. The place of the battlefield is 1780, which was the deciding battle for the settlement of the Northwest Territory. Enough information about this place. Now, to get into today's message, I want to say, ever since I rededicated my life to the Lord and decided I was going to make that pursuit the most important thing in my life, I have tried to keep my schedule as full as I could. Because in my mind, if I stayed busy all the time, it took care of a big problem. And that goes along with an old saying, idle hands are the devil's playground. Well, but for me, it was more like an idle mind is the devil's playground. Because the more often I'm not occupied, the more temptation that creeps in. So if I'm constantly busy, these temptations won't get to me. At least that's how I felt. And it seemed to work out that way. So I kept myself extremely busy. Like in 2023, I fell in love with hiking. So I started trying to go do that as much as I could. And I had made two different bucket lists. One for the state of Ohio and one for national, country, and international. And as I'm filling them up with places I want to go see, I keep checking things off. So I'm just trying to go through it, and I want to make sure if, when I get to the end of my life, I can say, look what I did, as opposed to I wish I would have. Now in 2024, I started the year off by making a pretty demanding New Year's resolution. My goal with this resolution was to see 100 waterfalls by the end of the year, which I ended up seeing 103. Now, not only did I do that, but in July of 2024, I started this hiking ministry. So I was really keeping myself slammed busy because to do these hikes, I have to create messages like this one that the Lord has blessed me with. And I thank Him every day that He does this. And I thank Him every day that He's given me this ministry. But I also have to think of places we're going. I have to try to plan out these hikes the best I can. Try to plan out the food, where we're going to go out afterwards to eat. And then do all the Facebook stuff that I do. And it's not that I'm complaining. Not at all. I love it. I'm just letting you know what goes into a weekly hike. And every single week I do try to plan these. So that took up a whole lot of my time. And also kept me extremely busy. But that's what I was going for. And then again in 2025, I just stayed making sure I could do everything that needed to be done to try to make this hiking ministry be successful. And I feel like in a lot of senses it has become successful. But a problem was arising. With all this scheduling, I wasn't ever taking time to rest. I'd have so many of my friends and family telling me I needed to slow down, that I was doing too much. See, I was trying to fix a problem, but I wasn't following one of the principles in the Bible. It tells us in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and your mind, and do not lean on your own understanding. Now, me trying to handle these temptations the way I was, I'm clearly not trusting in the Lord. I'm trying to rely on myself. And in doing so, I'm never resting. But in July of last year, I feel like it was the Lord that started stepping in to make me rest. Now, I've always had exceptional health. I've never really been in the hospital for anything. I've never broken a bone. I've never had surgery, nothing. But last July, I get diagnosed with shingles. Now, this didn't put me in the hospital, but it did put me down for about a week. Took me off work. And then, as soon as I got healed from that, I went right back to it. Didn't stop. And then in October last year, after I was at an evangelism outreach, I ended up getting sepsis somehow. And then that hospitalized me for 3.5 days. And then that kept me off work for 2 weeks. But then again, as soon as I got healed from that, right back to it. overbooking my schedule, just keeping myself slammed busy as possible again. And then in February of this year, I had to end up going to the hospital with severe stomach pains and a lot of bleeding. And now this one has taken me just out of the game for a while. And now one of the revelations I've had throughout all of this is that the Lord was trying to tell me something. He was trying to tell me that I needed to rest. And not only that, but that I needed to be content in the resting time. Now, how difficult is it for us to be content and resting? When we feel like we don't want to stop. I mean, that's the difficult thing, isn't it? To be content with not being able to do anything. That's a hard thing to do. I think for any of us, but especially it was for me because I've never stopped. I've had to learn how to do, and it reminds me of a story in the Bible. You see in the book of Luke, chapter 10, Jesus sends out the 72 disciples, and he says that they will have the power to cast out demons, to heal the sick, and they'll be able to do all these amazing things. And they go out and they come back and they start telling Jesus, they're like, Lord, we got to do so many cool things. We got to cast out these demons and we healed people and people were walking. It was so awesome. And Jesus told them, do not rejoice about being able to do these things. I told you you would be able to do these. Instead, rejoice that your name is written in heaven. That's the ultimate prize for us. Our name is in heaven. That's what our goal is after, not what God has said we would be able to do. And then after that, they were wanting to go back out and do more, but Jesus told them, let's go and rest. You see, it was at this point that Jesus was saying we need to be content in the time of rest. It's one of the most important and difficult things that we can learn to do. To learn patience when all we want to do is go. It's a difficult lesson. The Apostle Paul also talks about this exact thing in another spot in the book of Philippians, chapter 4, verse 11. He says, not that I am speaking of being in need, for I have learned, in whatever situation I am, to be content. No matter what we're doing, we rest. Whatever God has us doing, wherever lousy menial job we're at, we need to be content in it, because in all things we need to act as if we're working for the Lord. So the big question becomes, how do we learn this type of patience? Well, I still don't know, but I hope I'm starting to understand it a little bit better as I am getting to go back to work tomorrow, thankfully. So as we walk today, let's think about how we can learn to be content in our resting and talk about ways that we can become more patient.